Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's episode, a topic that everyone should be interested in, your property tax value. It's the first time your properties are being reevaluated here in Wake County in 4 years. Big increases are expected. WRAL Investigates reporter Matt Talhelm joins me to break it down. Matt, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So let's walk people through exactly, just give me the basics. Like, what is a property tax evaluation and how will it impact our tax bills?
Yeah, so North Carolina law requires every county to revalue the properties. We're basically resetting the tax values at least once every 8 years. Wake County does it every 4 years, which is actually something new. They shortened it to that 4-year length back in 2020. That was the first 4-year revaluation. So they're looking at every property in the county to see how its value changed. The market changes, everything around it changes. So they're resetting the tax values for the next 4 years.
And that is residential and commercial?
Residential and commercial. There are about 425,000 properties that Wake County is revaluing right now.
So the last time was 4 years ago, so that was 2020. And what was the increase at that time?
So between 2016 to 2020, residential properties, the average change was 20% increase. For commercial properties, it was 33% an increase for 2016 to 2020. So for the typical home in the county, that's a 20% increase in value in those 4 years.
And of course, we've had the pandemic. We saw all-time highs for home values during the pandemic. So there is a chance that good chance that we could see an increase.
Yeah, so Wake County is still looking at every property. They will look at every sale of every property up until December 31st. So the very last day of this year, that will be counted into the revaluation that's going on right now. So they can't tell us exactly what kind of a percent change we're going to see. But all you have to do is look at the sales, the median sales price in Wake County between this time in 2019 when they were doing the 2020 revaluation to this time this year.
Big difference.
Big difference. 48% increase in the median sales price for a home in Wake County. So it could be somewhere in that range.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll talk more after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. So you actually went out with one of these property tax appraisers in Wake County to see how it works. And I thought that was so instructive and so interesting because I think that we don't really know what they look at. So what did you learn in terms of what goes into these decisions?
Yeah, as a first-time homeowner myself, I wanted to know how this happens because you do just think, oh, you get this notice in the mail in January, this is the value of your home, and that's that. Well, a lot does go into this. They have 35 appraisers who are working on this revaluation right now. And so what they do is a lot of it is data-driven, including using artificial intelligence to look at all of these things. But then they also do these in-person visits out in neighborhoods, especially where the homes were built before 2000. So if they were built in that time range right around that 2000 mark, it's the point where people are starting to make renovations to their homes and maybe making some changes that would increase or change the value of their homes. So these crews, these appraisers go out and do 165,000 field reviews in these neighborhoods. And then they break it all down into what they call neighborhooding, which is dividing the county into 5,100 neighborhoods, and they're comparing homes within each of those neighborhoods to similar homes.
Right. So I was going to say they look at comps. So I bought my home in 2019 at a good value in terms of property tax, but now other properties have been sold for more in my same area. So I would imagine that would be included.
Right. And what they're doing is an apples to apples comparison. So one way you look at it, if your neighborhood has a lot of change that's happened over the last few years, if you have a 1970s split level home, it's going to be compared to a 1970s split level home. New construction compared to new construction. Sure. By similar builders, the quality of the build, they'll compare apples to apples in all of this.
But remodeling does count.
It does. So they pull all those permits you have to get done with your town or your city. Those permits are pulled, and they look at if you added a deck, if you added an addition to your house, a garage, all of that is accounted into it just as much as the land beneath it and what the house looks like from the street.
And so obviously your home value going up is a good thing if you're selling it, not such a good thing if you have to pay taxes. So that is something that people are really going to be holding their breaths and until they get that bill.
Right. And one thing that the county is doing this year, they're really focusing on correctly and appropriately valuing homes where the owners have been in them 40, 50 plus years. Maybe it's the home they've owned their entire lives. They haven't made a lot of changes to it, and they have no intention of selling it. So they are looking at those kind of neighborhoods and those homes so that those folks are not pushed out, so that their homes aren't overvalued because they have no intention to sell it.
Just because they happen to be in a neighborhood that may be gentrified, that they can still stay there and not have to pay crazy taxes. How long has this been going on, this process?
Yeah, so they've been working on this for more than a year in this revaluation, even up to 2 years doing some of the back work on it. But again, those sales that they'll use to determine these values, that is up until the very end of this year. So after December 31st, they'll close it all and they'll do all their AI technology, their data-driven process to make sure everything is correct. But these field reviews, they've pretty much wrapped up now. So they've been out there looking at those homes in person that they need to look at, taking it all back to the tax office, changing all the records to update them with what they've seen in person, what they've seen in the permits. And then that will all be done and calculated here in the next few weeks. The county commissioners will then get a presentation with the latest update that'll tell them, here's the percentage change, and that'll happen in early January.
So when do we expect to get those bills?
Yeah, so those notices will go out in the mail the week of January 16th. That is immediately after that presentation to the commissioners. Like I said, when they did that 4 years ago, they found out that 20% change in residential values, that 20% increase. We'll find out here in the next few weeks what the total is for this revaluation.
And in terms of, the increase, I mean, you're going to be continuing to follow this. I know you have another report coming up.
Yeah, we're working on a report to look at what could this mean. And we will take a look at some of those older homes and some of those folks that have been in their homes for generations. We're going to talk with some families who live in Rochester Heights in Raleigh. That's a neighborhood that has seen homes where the children now own the homes their parents built. So we're going to take a look at that. We're also going to just take a look at what could happen. Let's say there's a 30% increase. What would the county commissioners have to do to change the tax rate for your bill to stay the same? So we'll take a look at all of that, and we'll also explain how, once you get that notice in the mail, how you can determine if your values will cause your taxes to go up or go down.
So a lot of questions still, and a lot of people, I think, are going to be waiting to see exactly what their tax bill is. Just a lot of concern.
There is, and a lot of people we talk to, they dread getting that notice every 4 years, and they'll be finding that out just like the rest of us in January.
Yeah, I get it. Well, Matt, thank you so much for breaking this down. I really appreciate it. I think it's something that a lot of people are going to be watching very closely, and we look forward to your next report. You can find more podcasts from WRAL News at WRAL.com. Search podcast. From sports to my true crime shows, there are plenty of shows to keep you informed and entertained. As always, thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download.